All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with episode 6 of Zed Daily. Today I've got the factory with me. How you guys doing today?
Great, man.
Doing great,
Thanks for
man.
having us.
Excited for this Monday. Excited to get this going here.
Awesome. So you guys are two people in the factory out of 4, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves and just let us know what role you guys play within the factory?
Yeah. So my name is Youngest. I was kind of the initial launch pad for Zed for the entire crew. So I was the first one to find the platform and kind of start doing my research and things of that nature. So from my standpoint, it was kind of the starting point for getting everybody on board, and then from there I've been kind of myself and Closet Nerd. We essentially manage the stable, the racing, and the breeding side of everything. So we handle more of like the day-to-day operations of the stable.
And then Robbie.
Yeah, I kind of got a part of it because I've been in crypto for like now it's been 6-7 years now. Heard about Zed from Youngest. I've known Youngest for a while now, and kind of wanted to get involved. My family comes from like a horse racing background, so naturally I was like, give me the hell in this, right? So I came in a little bit later, but now most of the time I'm kind of I help with the racing a little bit. I bought into the stable actually with Youngest a little bit later, but now most of the time I'm either helping them with racing, analyzing the horses, or not as much the day-to-day, but I help fund most of it. So that's kind of where I've landed in it.
Okay, awesome. And so, Youngest, do you want to dive into a little bit more about how you found Zed and the story behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into the entire kind of crypto NFT space in January of this year. Started with kind of, I think a lot of people's paths with Top Shot. So was introduced to Top Shot, but wasn't really shown like the capacity of really transacting with Ethereum and with cryptocurrency, since that was still kind of like a basis of what's up, Saba?
Some motherfuckers. Sorry, I'm legit. I'm at a casino.
Yeah, you're good. Get that money.
At 9 a.m. Don't judge me right now.
That's how it goes. So I got in March. Somebody sent me a link like, hey, do you want to buy a horse? And in my head, I'm like, that's a wild question to ask somebody. So got the link, and it was like a few days before the March 19th drop that Zed had. And, I jumped in the Discord, and, I remember the Discord had like maybe, I don't know, it had like less than 1,000 people in it. So it was a really tight knit community, but, was part of that first drop process. And when I saw how quickly those horses sold out, it was like just an impossible gas wars all over the place. And when I saw that entire thing happen, I knew that there was something there in terms of the supply and the demand. So I started buying horses on the secondary market soon thereafter, just through Discord, talking to people. And the funny thing was, I still had no real idea how, like, I was learning MetaMask and transferring stuff. So I was like trying to broker deals, was like, yo, like I'll Venmo you $2,000. And like, I didn't understand the ETH is ETH process. So like, I like hit a guy up. It's like, all right, we're going to do 1,300 in ETH. And then the next day ETH went up like 3%. And I'm like, well, no, yesterday it was a $1,300 transaction. Now it's going to cost me $1,600. I'm like, hold on. So like, I got schooled real quick on that. But after I got the secondary thing down and figuring it out, I started pitching it to Robbie, Saba, and Closet Nerd. And we were just trying to get everything on base there. So they came on board probably about 30 days after I was on. But it was kind of one of those initial, like, we all had the same kind of hunger behind it, just in seeing again the volume and the trajectory that the game was going.
Awesome. And then what were those first horses that you bought off the secondary market?
So my very first horse I bought was Divine Sanction, and she's a Z6 Genesis. Had her, and she was lightly raced, probably like 30 or 40. And then I got after that I bought Seductive Engagement, which came from the Ducky Malin bloodline, and that was an exclusive. Yeah, and he was a monster, and I hate to say this, but I had him listed just at like some ridiculous number that like I didn't even think about, and then right when breeding opened, he got sniped, and I was like, like we lost him in that in the war. But yeah, those are our first two horses that we brought to the table, and then from there it was like, I was able to snipe a couple on the next drop that came through, and then when these guys came on board, we were on that big, I think it was the Terra drop, where we were able to snipe two Z1s from that one, and that kind of like really changed the entire path for us when we were able to get two Z1s on a drop.
How much were the Z1s going for at that time?
They were about 10 ETH, but because it was they were doing 10. It like on the USD at the time. ETH was like 3,700, so they were just under about $40,000 a piece.
Okay. And then so Sabo, when this guy's coming to you asking you like, hey, do you want to throw some real money into digital horse racing and breeding? What are your thoughts on that? What'd you tell him?
So I'm hands down the biggest degenerate out of the group. So they gotta tame me at times, because I'm no, and then I'm all in, advancing every kind of leverage I can to get into it. So my experience with NFTs really, just in general, I mean, I've been in crypto since probably early 2017, if not late 2016. Me and Rob actually got into crypto mining back then. But what I think really killed it for me for NFTs was just Top Shop. And we were just at NFT NYC, and we were talking about this a lot. And it's not, I mean, we love basketball. I probably love basketball more than any other sport. And obviously the NBA licenses were so much, but there was just something about those cues that fucking killed me, man. Because I dedicated so much time. We had the same kind of thread of us four that are now the factory, trying to get in every single drop, and we couldn't get our hands in it. We loaded money in it. We couldn't pull it out. So I definitely was a little hesitant at first with NFTs, but loving games, loving esports, and actually realizing, and I think it's only a matter of time. Like, there's so much utility behind Zed, right? And so much utility behind kind of a horse racing game. And I think why we're all so bullish too, I'm not sure if Bob really highlighted it, but Bob comes from a family of actual real life greyhound breeders. And he's introduced us to some of the biggest like horse racing, either horse breeders or horse racers, all the way from Kentucky to, I mean, it was the Breeders' Cup last week. So I think it's only a matter of time before that money gets in, and then it's game over, really. But even in the meantime, I mean, Gus was telling us about these horses. Obviously, I have ADD, so I didn't listen, right? You got to tell me something like 5 times through. And then finally, I think it was, Gus, it was the Z10, right? I think there's the initial drops, the Z10 returns were so insane, right? Like you got obviously a higher return buying top tier horses, but the Z10 as far as like an ROI was just this crazy sweet spot. And I couldn't like even conceptualize it. So at the time I was big into Binance Smart Chain. I was big into a lot of other DeFi projects. And I was like, you know what, this is a perfect hedge for me because it's on ETH, right? And I wish I got in earlier because the type of returns we were seeing back then were insane, but I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, through the roof. Yeah, but Saba's definitely the classic, like, he'll, 2-3 weeks later, he'll be like, yo, where the fuck was this information before? I'm like, dude, like, scroll up in the chat. Like, honestly, we posted it 6 times. Like, it's there. We told you. So this was just another one of those instances.
Awesome. And so when you were saying flipping the Z10s, did you mean just like flipping them on the secondary market or racing them and getting profit?
Definitely flipping them on secondary market. It was mad. I mean, do you remember the exact numbers, Gus, that we were seeing?
It was like a 600%. It was a 600% ROI because they're selling. I forget what it was on the drop. They were selling for 600% less than they were selling on the secondary market, and they were getting sniped like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they were so cheap. Those first drops, like a Z10 was like 0.1 something. It was like a ridiculous price point where they were going up so fast. Like they were over half an ETH, 0.6 is what they were going for. So, and I mean, we didn't even get Z10s that we had the ability to flip. We were just watching the market and how fast that part of it was moving. Obviously, like the 6 through 10s had a lot more market activity just because they were a lot more affordable for those entry points, where the 1 through 5s had more of that, kind of long-term hold anyways, because of the value that they were bringing to the game. And this was all pre-breeding, right? We had no idea what breeding looked like. Breeding hadn't opened up since the first iteration of it, which we weren't, around for breeding prior to that initial one that came in, which I think was around June. So, we really were trying to just figure out, it was just a horse by horse basis, like without even understanding truly what that breeding, concept looked like.
Okay. So that you spoke on breeding, do you guys have a collective breeding process? Do you guys disagree on certain things? How do you guys breed at the factory?
Oh yeah.
Well, so myself and I mentioned Closet Nerd, the other 25% of the ownership here. He and I kind of go through most of the strategy there, and we've gotten it down now, kind of to a understanding of taking our Z1s, starting there, and we kind of have we have 2 Z1s now, a stallion and a mare, and we try to go we get them to get our Z2, but we have a Z2, Z3, Z4 that we basically get from Concentrate, our absolute gem of a monster horse, Z1. So we essentially just start there, and then it's just a matter of looking at breeding that we've had in the past and looking at the success rate of those horses. We pretty much race everything that we bring through, and that we breed now. We don't really leave a lot unraced anymore, just to kind of see, we test the waters to see if the breeding pairs are correct and if they're going to make sense for us. And we've been really, really fortunate that we really haven't, created any donkeys per se. So it's been a good process for us, thankfully.
I think in the beginning we were like, cause again, and then it's a little different because Youngest and Closet Nerd come from like an NFT background. Closet Nerd is like comes from an extreme gaming background. He's one of the biggest producers of esports in the world, just from his like background, from his perspective. So they come from that kind of background, where Saba and I come from more of a crypto / like been around for a long time in the space. And then we Saba and I also, we own our own company, but we all have different backgrounds from where we come from. So it's a good, where Youngest and Closet Nerd are thinking more of like the gaming perspective, where Saba and I are thinking more of the return perspective. And it goes hand in hand, and it's really good. The way we both interact on, especially from the breeding standpoint. And I think when we first started, we were very hesitant to race any of our horses, but now that we kind of have a hang of it, we're racing pretty much everything. And I think that's like obviously for me, like that's like the best part, is fucking cheering on these horses and like, being in the thick of it. I know at NFT NYC, Saba, I wasn't able to go, unfortunately, but they were all at the bar, like, because we were racing Concentrate. I was at home, and I'm like, hey guys, this is our first race with our Z1. Like, what's going on over there? Like, give me some insider details. And they're just sending me these videos of everyone just fucking going crazy at the bar, watching Concentrate just rip this thing. And he obviously lost, but it was a madhouse at the time.
Yeah, it was a good
game. It was incredible. Yeah, that was so much fun.
I was gonna say, I think what's important for like necessarily having like a partnership like this is we all have our roles and we're all bringing different perspective. And I think every time I've done something successful as far as partnerships, you almost have to have a view where you have a couple guys that are the experts, and then a couple guys are honestly that aren't involved, so they could kind of see something from a third party point of view, right? And when we do have discussions about what our strategy is, our breeding strategy, what we're going to market, we're obviously always upgrading horses. I think it's important to have that view. I really do. And I think sometimes a few of us might step away a little bit further. Obviously, Youngest and Closet Nerd are more the day-to-day and management, are really in the weeds of it. But I think it's good to kind of have that perspective, and our conversations are really well balanced when we do talk about the longevity of it. And we also all understand that we are so early in Zed. And like this week, I mean, we were hearing stuff like 20-30% of the game's only done, right? So like we're just getting started. And I think everyone on our team has that mindset of this is a marathon, right? And we're positioning ourselves so, and that's when I honestly had the most success with all my investments, my business ventures, everything, right? Because you're able to be more patient, right? And you're able to learn from your mistakes, and you're able to kind of not make impulsive decisions that could kind of impact you later on.
100%. Robbie, how do you try and bring your real world horse experience into an NFT game, as in like breeding or racing?
Yeah, it's kind of, to be frank, the only thing that kind of translate over is the actual breeding aspect. Like it's very similar with bloodlines and how that works. Like if you have a good horse and you can show it can win, just like in the real world, you're probably going to get a lot of profit just from breeding it, right? And you don't really have to run it that much. You know, if it's a winning horse, it's a winning horse, and people are going to think it's a winning horse, and obviously it's offspring. You're going to be able to make profit there, right? That's kind of been the translation over to that. Besides for the fact is also I'm able to talk with people that, you know, especially with my dad, he's like very involved with all that stuff. Whenever I talk to him about it, he's always just like, my friends want to get involved. How do I get them involved? You know, like how do we get people involved? How do we make an easy pathway for them to do it? And it's always, you know, you have the discussion with these guys that are in the real horse world. First of all, it's an older community, and they know nothing about, you know, crypto or what's going on there. So first you got to teach them, you got to go through the MetaMask, you got to teach them all that, right? So that's the difficult part, is one, onboarding them and getting them like, hey, you have to get a MetaMask. This is what ETH is. This is how you transfer it over. These are gas fees. But it's the way I'm seeing and how the real world is going to transfer over into Zed is there needs to be an easy pathway for this older community to get involved. And that has to be with, one, getting them the currency to first purchase Zed, right? Get them ETH and get them onboarded. And I don't know how that's going to work, whether it be with MetaMask or whether it be with Zed having like an onboarding process, which they do kind of with their wallet, but it's still not the easiest, you know, it's not the easiest transaction, especially if you haven't been in the space ever, right? So I think where it comes like in the real world and where like the actual adoption is going to be is making it easy for these people to come in and be like, hey, I want to get a horse. How do I race it? What's the best way for me to like actually inject capital into it? And where can I see returns, right? So I think, you know, there's a lot of interest there from the real world that are currently racing real horses right now. And I want to say that, you know, I hope that there's going to be an easier way to get these people onboarded because the interest is there. And, you know, once that happens, it's very easy to get mass adoption. You know, horse people are horse people. It doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's not, right? So if they can, and especially because these people pay a shit ton of money to upkeep their horses, you know, like for training or whatever it may be, and you tell them, hey, we can eliminate all that and we can still keep your returns pretty high, people are really excited about that, right? So I don't know. I think the real world adoption is going to be here sooner. It's just how easy can we make it for these people to come in and get a horse and then, you know, see how ETH works, right?
You got to realize too, like this is an industry where people are legitimately dumping millions of dollars, right? Real life horse. There's very, very few horses that make money. It's actually the ultimate flex, right? Just like NFTs. And I'm not necessarily saying that Zed would be the ultimate flex, like it would be like a CryptoPunk or something like that, because these are now at the point where I honestly think that they're good investments. But originally, NFT profile pictures, they're flexes, right? I mean, that's what they were. Once these guys get a taste of it, I think it's game over. But it's soon. I think it's sooner than later.
Okay. So
I mean, if you look at that, really quick, I was just going to say, if you look at, again, the event in New York, you know, the other night where you had 12 unraced Z1s all going head to head, you know, all the top stables in the world, that was one of the most electric atmospheres that I've been involved in, just because of like, everyone's throwing, $150,000 on the table to see, like if there's not an ultimate flex competition there where like, although there wasn't actual like wagering side bet stuff, which again, we tried to do as we always do in these races on Heads Up, but nobody accepted. But, going into something like that, like there's a certain level of like, I mean, of electricity in that room where, watching that from afar, I mean, didn't even do justice to how crazy the entire environment was. So as you continue to like grow that type of, experience for this platform on the outside, I think those types of events and things of that nature are only going to, kind of pay, and attest to what Robbie was saying about just growing this thing to the outside world.
Yeah, and I think all of us coming from Top Shot, did any of you guys ever spend Ethereum on Top Shot? Because personally, I didn't. I just used my credit card.
I did.
Yeah, me too.
It's a tough process. Like I couldn't. It took me forever to get it in, and then when I wanted to get it out, it was a nightmare.
Okay, so if Zed implemented something to where people could just pay with a card, you think that would be way easier onboarding for them?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's just like anyone from the outside, especially like I said, horse people, they don't know what Ethereum even is, like, to be honest. So it's like, if they could just be like, hey, here's your credit card, swipe it, and you can get a horse, I think it would be a lot easier. But I think it's good to have people learn about Ethereum regardless. So it's good, but you can't, it's an old saying. I always tell Saba this, and especially about my dad, I said, you can't teach old dog new tricks, right? Once a guy knows his path and how he got there, like these guys they got there for a reason. Like anyone that's above 60 or older that's doing what they're doing, they got there doing a certain way, and like they're not going to change most of the time. So it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, right? You're trying to teach them about a whole new stable or a whole new game that's like about horses, and they're like, well, okay, I have to download MetaMask, I have to do this, I have to do that. It's very hard to do that. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, 100%. You gotta buy the crypto. You gotta set up the MetaMask. You gotta send it to your MetaMask. You gotta do the gas fees. You gotta maybe go to Umbria if you want to save a bunch of money on bridging to Polygon. So it is a lot. So Youngest, you spoke on the Z1 NFT NYC event. Do you want to go into that a little bit deeper, and how'd you guys get involved with that?
So Closet Nerd he's kind of like our community voice in terms of his engagement, when in the Discords, and he's probably the most I think directly associated with not only just like the Zed team in terms of just communication that he's had with like the devs and things over time, right, from getting to know the community and things of that nature, but he's definitely pounds the pavement harder than any of us when it comes to actually like, just day-to-day interactions and things of that nature. So he was just, leading up to the event, setting up, all kinds of different meetings and ancillary events that we were going to for all the other NFTs that were in communities that we're involved with. He was, basically the idea was thrown out there that, we wanted to launch this new, side of the Zed Run platform where you could throw your own, basically like the event, right? The party mode, where you can host your own tournament style race. And so, I think it was kind of reluctantly at first, because you're always a little scared to throw an unraced into the mix, especially when the value is so high. And I mean, we're not in a position right now where we're, trying to like get top dollar out of our Z1s and we just want to hold them to flip them, because we're seeing value again in the breeding side of things. But there's always a little bit of nerve, I think, when you're putting such a high stakes type of, asset into that format. But yeah, we ended up moving forward with it. And then sure enough, as we start seeing everyone else that joined in, we're like, all right, there's some heavy hitters that are coming through here. So I think, being included in that high level, talent pool in terms of like some of the best stables and breeders, in the entire platform worldwide, is a massive accomplishment. And, it's just something that we're always happy to be involved in those types of things. So we were, we threw the horse in there, Concentrate, and we based it on, we had two, right? We had Ready, our female, and Concentrate, and we just looked kind of like at the breeding and the success that the offspring have had over the last few months from Concentrate. So we just assumed that he was going to be our best option to put into this thing. And so we threw him in there, and now with the modification from odds to just the flames, it was a little disheartening we didn't pull flames in it, but again, you're going up against 11 other Z1s, so like the opportunity there, like it's very, very slim pickings on that. So not to say that, because as soon as that event ended, we started racing him, and he's pulled flames in every race since that event night. So that was good to see that we didn't buy a Z1 donkey, but yeah, the event itself was absolutely electric. I'd have to say there's probably a couple hundred people there, and there was just a lot of the interactive piece was great. To sit down and have the opportunity to talk to Ebbs, who made it all the way out from Australia, and talk directly with the mastermind behind this incredible platform was just phenomenal. And then it's always nice to see the people you've been talking shit to on Twitter for the last 6 months face to face, and bring that whole thing to life. So all of that within itself just made, I think, the overall experience that much more enjoyable, and the I think the end piece of it, regardless of the fact that we didn't take a top 3 place in either of the 3, I think it definitely just reinvigorated something that I think a lot of us were just like wanting in terms of the Zed experience, and in that live environment. And I just think that there's so much open road ahead of us that again, being in those types of situations, like that's where you want like that. I think you can get that like degenerate all day horse racing, real life horse racing guy that's sitting there, screaming at the TV. Now he's got something new to get after, where he can just do it from his living room. So it definitely brought a smile to my face to be involved in something of that nature, because first of its kind.
It was kind of sick too, because we're like, I honestly didn't know what was going on, and then David, or Closet Nerd, our guy, he calls me and he goes, "Hey, we're gonna race Concentrator, our unraced Z1, our prized asset in a race." And I'm like, "Okay, what's the prize pool?" He's like, "No prize pool." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, no, we're just gonna race him at NFT NYC." I'm like, my degenerate ass is like, "Well, does anyone want to like bet something? Like, we have to have a prize pool here. We're not just gonna race him for fun." And he's like, "No, it's like history." And I'm like, "Okay, so does anyone want to gamble? Like, what do we want to do here?" And so we're literally all of us are in a chat, and I'm like, "So there's no prize pool, and we're racing our prized asset in a race that doesn't mean anything. It's just so everyone can like have fun." And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, fuck it, do it."
All risk, no reward.
Do it for
yeah. So, and I mean, obviously, you remember us from the Digital Derby, where we had our 5 Ethereum heads up match. So same type of thing, right? We threw out the bet out there and into the Twitterverse, and that one was accepted. So we tried to pull the same thing off, but nobody was biting on this round. Thankfully, they didn't, though. I mean, we would have gotten
thankfully
smoked.
They
didn't.
I'm
happy nobody accepted.
So let's go into the Digital Derby one. What was the story behind that? Because what was it? How much Ethereum was on the line for that race?
That was a 5 Ethereum was the heads up. So yeah, wild.
Yeah,
right?
what's Ethereum at right now?
4,700.
47. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I think at the time at the time that was August. I think we were still like in the mid 3s. I mean, it was equivalent to about like $16,000 or $17,000. This one race, and so Digital Derby was executed, and we were talking about Closet Nerd, on the esports side of things. That event we just had the opportunity to be involved with again, and we wanted to just showcase like how much fun we have with the Zed platform, and kind of bringing our degenerate tendencies from our outside world experiences into this platform. So when we had that opportunity, the same thing, we just, we wanted to bring our world into Zed. And I think we showcased that as, I think you put it in your tweet earlier, the villains of Zed Run. So I like, or the Digital Derby at least. And I love it. I think it's great. I think you need to have that activity, and, it's all fun and games, but it's nice to have a few choice words here and there.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite part of the Digital Derby. It might not have even been the race. It was just the marketing and like the production behind it. But the promo that you guys cut was awesome, dude.
Awesome. Yeah, we had so much fun with it.
Closet Nerd is I mean, he, like I said, he's like the producer behind all that. He's really the way he does things, and it's really good for the game that Dave or Closet Nerd's so involved, is because he's just the guy really, when he wants something and he really puts his mind to something, he's insane what he can put together producing wise. So yeah, it was really cool to be a part of that, and it was obviously extremely fun. We got to go to the races. We were with Efren, and obviously we lost. That sucked, but regardless, it was still really fun.
Yeah. So for anybody that
we had a good time
watching,
with it. So.
You guys didn't win the 5 ETH race.
No, we did not.
We lost it by, I mean, it was really close. Like, I think less than a tenth of a second. I mean, it was closer than I thought it was going to be, going into the fact that, Catch Me Riding Derby was racing Jumbo, who's, one of the top Z1s, fucking over 1,000 races under its belt. And we threw in a, Swagger who had 2 races under his belt. So, I mean, we said, we like to take big risks and gamble, and, we at least we didn't get our asses fucking handed to us. It was entertaining nonetheless. But yeah, no, the promo piece again was like the best part for us, I think, too, was just being involved with that, getting to go to Del Mar and see the horse racing live and kind of tying all that stuff together. So I think we're just gonna have to keep cutting promos, keep this thing going.
Yeah, I think so as well. So do you guys see any future digital derbies down the line, and do you just want to not even compete in the tournament, just go talk shit to someone and have the heads up bets?
100%, yeah.
We want to do a little bit of both. Like we, in all honesty, we really want to be one of the top stables in the game, and that's what we're working towards. Obviously, like there's so much competition. There's guys that have been around the game forever now, and we know that we haven't been around the game as much as these guys, and there's a lot to work towards. But that's kind of what we want to do. Is we want to be one of the top stables in the game. So whatever that takes, we're gonna have to obviously learn a lot and race a lot, which we're doing every day. But yeah, I think we obviously want to continue the side stuff. That's always really fun. And that's where we shine, to be honest. But the actual derbies and the actual races, these tournaments, we want to be a part of it, and we want to be racing in them consistently eventually, right?
Yep.
It's good for the brand.
There's just something, again, just to go back to New York thing, is like there's something I think a little bit special when you walk into the event and a handful of people are like, oh, these fucking guys, like before you even you don't have to introduce yourself, because like, all right, here they are, let's go have a word with these guys. So I think having fun on both sides of that, but we definitely are not here to just like make a quick buck. Like this is definitely something that we're heavily invested in, and we want to be as successful as we can on the platform side of things, because I think as we all learn together, we start to unlock little parts of the puzzle that makes Zed, continue to be more interesting and intriguing, because you're having to do so much more, analysis of what every horse is capable of as they keep changing things with stamina, and as all these pieces continue to rotate. I think that's the beauty of keeping everybody engaged, because the playing field's going to continue to kind of just fluctuate up and down in terms of evening things out, and I just think we have a very, very bright future ahead of us.
So how do you plan on making yourself one of those top stables in the game? Do you plan on going the arbitrage route and scouting horses? You guys gonna go the breeding route? What's your plan there?
I mean, I think right now, we're focused right now on the breeding route, and I think being able to create and breed these monster offspring is really important for us, because I think it allows you to kind of stabilize the strength of understanding, like if you're only pumping out winners, right, then it allows, I think, eyes to be set on you to really know that like these guys understand that mechanic of the game. But we're kind of open to all ends. I don't think we really have like one direct strategy that's only going to be focused on one thing. Like we want to race, we want to be successful, top win rates, we want to have successful offspring, we want to go out and scout and take advantage of a little bit of the bear market that's happening in NFTs right now, and go go get some of these, you know, Genesis horses that people are just basically handing out right now for free. So we're kind of just, you know, multifaceted, I think, in terms of what we want our overall goal to be. But at the end of the day, I think it's just more or less, you know, the staple and you know, kind of the perception of us, our involvement being like, you know, committed and dedicated to making this like a household name type of environment for the factory.
Yeah, I think it's like the youngest said, it's two-pronged. We know we have like a really good bloodline and concentrate and his offspring, so we're trying to optimize that by racing them and kind of figuring out, you know, if we keep breeding them and we keep bringing swagger and concentrate and seeing where that bloodline goes down the road, and then being able to optimize that racing, right? And then it's two-pronged, right? Like, we want to accumulate as much Genesis horses as possible, and that's kind of been our strategy since day one. We really believe in the long-term success of the game, and we think the long-term success of the stable is having as many Genesis horses as you could possibly have. So with racing that bloodline and then also kind of making a profit on that offspring, we're using that profit to turn it into more Genesis horses. Okay. So it's two-pronged, and then figuring out which bloodline on the Genesis horses we can then optimize in racing again, right? So it's a hypothesis. We're testing it, but it's worked out for one bloodline, so we're trying to again get more and more of that, right?
Correct. Do you have like any favorite Genesis you're immediately going to look at, like only Z8s, only Z5s, or do you not care in Z1 through Z10?
We're really interested in Z4s. That's kind of we've been talking about it, but we're really interested in the Z4s right now. That's kind of like our little hypothesis we've had just about we kind of want to go after a lot more Z4s. It's also because we don't have as many Z4s, but we really need a lot more Z4 Genesis.
Okay. Any, like, without giving away like your secrets, any reason why the Z4s?
They're
I mean, I think we won't say too much about it, but for us, I mean, a big part of it is when you're looking at the breeding side, we want to be, you know, sub Z10 offspring as much as possible with our legendaries. So that's kind of like one part of it there. But in terms of like the bloodline and things of that nature, you know, we'll keep that secret in house. But yeah, we've been, you know, I think the 4s and 5s are the ones that we really haven't had. We have, you know, 1 through 3 and then 6 through 10. So 4 and 5 is definitely what kind of a void right now in our stable. So we definitely have our eye out on those specifically. But yeah, you know, I think it's anything Genesis, we know there's value in there. We've never sold a Genesis horse, you know, even regardless of racing statistics, like we've, you know, even if we're not racing them right now or breeding them right now, we understand that, you know, there's something that's going to be very like palpable about their value here in, you know, the next 6 months.
Because you can't make any more of them, right? So it's just as more and more horses come into the system, but they become more and more valuable.
Simple supply.
Yeah. I mean, there's the finite supply, right? And so once the final few drops happen, which, you know, I'm not sure what that timeline looks like, but once that's done, then yeah, you're you know, it's kind of like the Top Shot S1s. Like no one gives a shit about the S3 drops now. That, you know, they're pumping out 300,000 series of the same thing, and so like it's not as high demand as those rares from the S1. So it's kind of that same idea, right? Anything what you're learning in NFT space, anything with Genesis, you know, implications, regardless of the fact, is always going to have that higher value because it's the first of its kind. So so I think, you know, is that mentality is something that makes it really important to, you know, to go out there, scout those horses, find those horses, and hold them whether or not you're racing them or not.
So if you guys came in solo today in the current like market that we're in a little bit of a bear market, would you guys agree?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Say a little bit.
So coming in with, let's say, like half an ETH, what would you get as a starting stable?
I would. So I've had this question before, like from a bunch of friends. So I always tell them, because like know your horses is like the best. I think that know your horses is like the most underrated like website it's not even underrated. It's just like it's such a good tool to use.
Incredible.
I would say one. People just obviously when they first come in, they don't understand. They don't even know what Z1 through 10. They don't understand Genesis, right? I tell them you should get any type of Z10 Genesis if you have 0.5 ETH. Try to get any type of Genesis that you could snipe for, 0.1 or whatever it may be, if there's a deal. And then I would also tell them to look at bloodlines. It's preached in the game all the time. You usually can find a pretty good bloodline if you actually do your homework. Like that you can find between like a Z7 to Z10. That's a legendary that sometimes you can find that's just a gem from a really insane bloodline that's being sold for, I would consider it a loss. So the first thing I tell people is you need to understand the bloodlines and understand where these horses come from. And if you can see a horse that's lightly raced, and it's funny, I actually, my old roommate, his girlfriend, her name's, I won't say her name, but I got her into it, and she's like a huge horse racer. And now she's killing it on like finding lightly raced horses that someone just like lightly raced it, lost, but it comes from an insane bloodline, and they just put it up for a loss, and they're like, I don't want to lose anymore. So there's always those type of deals on the market that you can find between like 0.1 to 0.2 ETH that if you just really do your homework, you could get an absolute steal, and all of a sudden you have an insane bloodline in your stable that you can breed to, right? So I would say obviously try to get yourself a Genesis between like a Z9 and Z10 if you can for that price. And then I would say look at bloodlines, and if you could find anything that comes from a winning bloodline of a horse that's a monster, you're probably going to have a good chance of finding a good horse. That's usually my advice.
Youngest?
Yeah, I think, and that's all, I'm kind of in the same boat there with Robbie, but with conversations I have with people, again, a lot of it's going to be dependent on, your cash flow. But if you have half an ETH, if there's even the potential for it, like I always like the idea of trying to find like a pair, right? And getting like a colt and a filly or whatever, and allowing yourself to understand all the mechanics up front of the racing side and the breeding side, right? So when I talk to people about entry points, even if you're breeding a, 2Z15s, just to understand the process and get into it, because I think once you get a little bit of a taste of unlocking those doors again and knowing what the process looks like, then you start to kind of chase a little bit more and get more, ingrained into, all right, now I need to search for this type of bloodline. Because as you're seeing, a lot of the most successful horses, there's a lot of them that are Z, look at like Steph Curry, right? You have these horses that are not even Genesis, not even legendaries, that are absolutely like smoke shows coming through. So it's not to say that, breeding two low Z's are still going to give you a donkey. There's so much potential in it. So for me, when I talk to people about that entry point, that's the side that I look for, because it allows you to understand all the mechanics of the game, really in kind of a few different transactions. If you're able to just get two horses up front that you can breed and then race the offspring, and now you've got 3 out of that 0.5 that you're just trying to figure out that, that circle there. So, that's more the direction I go, but that's what I love about the game, right? You have options, and it's not just like a very like, black and white, like this is where you start and this is the only way that you can, go through it. It's kind of like an open world, video game, right? You kind of just go explore and you come back and pick up your tools as you do it. It's not so like, straight cut. And that's what I love about it the most.
Okay. Yeah, I like that as well. So going back to what you said, Robbie, if I'm coming in and I'm buying that Genesis horse, and let's say like out of all my options, these Genesis horses like aren't race horses, would you just play the breeding game or like a collectability game from that point?
Yeah, so it always depends, right? Like, because a lot of people get in it like that are like, I want to play the game. Like I want to race, I want to do that. And then a lot of people are like, I believe in the game, but I kind of want to like, just like, I almost want to buy the stock, right? Like I want to like, I think the game is going to increase in value, so I want to buy the stock. So, if there's people like that, I tell them, look, buy like a Genesis horse, just hold it, and you can breed it if you want. But if you hold it, you're pretty much like holding the stock, right? It's like you just keep it on race, you hold the stock. If the game gains traction, you have a asset that's like never going to be made again, right, in the game. So you're literally like holding Zed Run stock. But for people that are like, I want to play the game, it's more like, okay, well, this is what you need to learn. You need to know, hey, you need to really look at the bloodlines. You need to understand where these horses are racing. You need to understand where these horses are coming from, the stables that are racing them, right? So it's all dependent. I think like for like especially for me when I was first coming into the game, my first thing was like, I believe in the game. I want to hold these things long term. But as I started like learning more about the game, I was like, shit, I just enjoy racing these fucking horses, you know? So like now, like my kind of my view is turned. And I think that's what most people are going to see is when you first come in, you're like, ah, man, I really want to like, I believe in the game. I want to like, I want to buy the stock. I want to make money off this. But then when you start doing it, you're like, shit, I see how much fun everyone's having racing these horses. Like, get me in on it, you know, like let's start racing these bad boys. So it's all dependent on your view, but I think eventually you're gonna just have to start racing them because like it's too fun and you just learn a lot about the game. And just like Youngest said, like when you get those pairs and you can kind of figure it out, it's a very complex game. So it's not just like black and white where it's like get two really high, you know, Z2s and you breed them and then you're good to go and you have a good horse. It's a lot more complex than that. So it's good to start like with, like you said, with like some cheaper horses, learn how it breeds and then learn how to race and then be like, okay, if I take this hypothesis from these and then I put in some more capital and I can kind of like figure it out from a higher perspective, will this work? And that's, you know, it's kind of playing around with it. Everyone's learning stuff, you know, every day in this game. So, and there's new tools being made every day. So it's, you know, not every strategy is right. Not every strategy is wrong. It's just kind of playing around with it and learning it. And I think that's why it's so fun. Right.
Yeah, it is because just like you said, it's everybody has their own strategies and theories and nobody's set in stone. Like this person knows it all. Right.
Right.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of it. Right.
When you guys breed, do you guys have the blood tool or are you just going and researching ancestry on a horse by yourself?
Yeah, it's just researching. I mean, we do, I'd say 95% of our breeding is all internal. We don't do a lot of like going out and you know, trying. I mean, every now and then we'll get lucky and we can snipe a horse. I mean, it's cutthroat out there, right? Because when you're breeding in-house, you know, you want to give yourself the best deal, right? So you don't want to spend 2-3 ETH, you know, breeding your own horses. But when you have like Z1s like concentrate, I mean, we've been on that side of it where we put in stud at the minimum price and then we get fucking smoked and we get sniped on all three of them and they're like, shit, all right, there you goes, right? And so we learned the hard way, you know, the first round with that. And so we've adjusted out of that. But even at our best rate of understanding like how to process that, we've still probably gotten sniped on at least one of those, you know, breedings with our top horses, you know, concentrate and swagger and banned from the internet. So, you know, from there, we've gone out and we don't go so far deep on the ancestry. Honestly, I just really look at kind of like win rate. I plug it in to know your horses. I just look at kind of, you know, versus a competition. You look at, you know, looking for the U curves, that kind of stuff. And when we find those, I mean, we just kind of fire off on that. So we're not like fully diving in and breaking the whole thing down because I think we've got a good understanding of, again, our in-house breeding where, again, we don't spend too much time going out and, you know, transacting with other stables.
Do you want to see anything fixed with the current in-house breeding system?
I mean, I think it'd be nice if you're staking your own horse to breed in-house, you shouldn't get fucking sniped on it. You know, like you should have like the ability to just say like, I'm going to breed my horses all together. Like that, it shouldn't go into a live marketplace. Like you can kind of, it's like doing like a private sale on OpenSea, right? Instead of like, if I'm going to sell you a horse for like a great deal, you know, 1 ETH or whatnot. And, you know, I don't want to just list it at 1 ETH. I'll just connect it as a private sale. That way it's directly already associated with your account. So at your pace, you know, you can go in and purchase that. I think that would be a nice tool to have for the in-house breeding, because if not, you're, you know, having to set your own limits higher, even though you're getting that 35% discount. You know, again, at the same time, if you're setting it at 0.25 and getting that discount, you're still spending almost half an ETH, you know, to breed 3 horses. So it can be costly. And I think that too can be one of those turnoffs for that new consumer that, you know, they go in, they don't know that process. Cause again, we had to learn the hard way. We put them in thinking it'd be easy and they're like, oh shit, like there's no breeding left for them. And we just lost out our top horse, got bred with 3 other stables and we're done. Right. So I think that would be the best part of just making that side of it easier, you know, and compatible with if you're deciding to only breed in house. But outside of that, I think the mechanics are great. You know, I think it's, you know, there's not really much else I would add to the process right now.
You got anything, Robbie?
No, I agree. I just think like if you're like breeding your horse, if you decide, hey, I want to breed my horse with my own horse, it shouldn't be like it shouldn't be like, okay, we got to get ready because we got to get it when it's on the open market. We got to be ready. You know, it's like,
yeah, it's like you got to treat it like a live drop, and it's crazy, right? You're like, sitting there with like 3 computers, like, all right, everybody,
all right,
click,
I get
the
here.
horse ready. Like you're like firing off, and the fucked up thing is like there's been so many times where like I've gotten the screen that says like, you know, the procreation, like congratulations, and then you look at the wallet and then nothing gets deducted, and you're like, hold on, what? Like didn't take my ETH. And then you go to transactions and boom, next thing you know, you lost, you know, and you're like, fuck, man. So, and it still happens to us, right? But, you know, I mean, I guess it gives you a little bit of the rush of a live drop, but I wish sometimes it wasn't as volatile as it is.
Yeah, you got to sit there and hit refresh till it pops up.
Yeah. They're like, go. It's wild, man. But, you know, it's part of the game. So you just kind of get used to it and you play along and, you know, wish for the best.
Cool, man. I got 2 more questions for you guys. What, right now, what do you guys think your stable's valued at in Ethereum?
Oh man, that's a fucking great question. I mean, I would say easily around like 80 to 100 on the low end, I think.
Damn.
Yeah, just because I mean, concentrate. We started racing him, and he just got upgraded on Know Your Horses or on Zed ranks to a gem. So he was a prized horse, and now he went up into that gem category. So I mean, you know, if you're looking at it from that aspect, I mean, those horses, I think at their top are like a 30 to 35, you know, ETH value. And we've got 2 of those. So just within 2 horses, I think we have 60 to 70 ETH value. And then we have another, I think we have like 94 currently in the factory stable. So yeah, I think 100 is a very conservative number.
We ask this question like all the time, and we're like, what where are we at right now? And like, yeah, it's funny to play around with the numbers. So definitely. I agree. But yeah, it's fun.
So let's say ETH goes to 10K. Do you guys think, just for like the whole general stable space, do you think most of the stables are going to be valued on USD or Ethereum at that point?
I think ETH is ETH.
I mean,
that's right. But the whole space is weird, right? ETH. Because people will sell when ETH is going up for more USD. It just doesn't make sense sometimes.
Of course.
Yeah, it's super.
It's hard.
I mean, it's a first. Like it's like a first of its like. I mean, it's not a first. Like there's always been different currencies, but this is like the first like digital thing where it's like, are you evaluating in ETH or are you evaluating in USD? And it's like really weird, especially with like the and all of the NFT market, right? Like when ETH is running right now, you're seeing like all NFTs are losing value. And is that because of gas or is that because of people are evaluating in USD, right? Like you don't really know. And just because it's like, 1, it's a smaller market compared to like other markets. And 2, it's just like, this has never really happened before, right? Like this is the first thing of like its kind where it's like, are people evaluating because they actually want to buy in Ethereum, or are people evaluating because they're looking at it and being like, I should not be paying that much USD? Sometimes like personally, like when I buy an NFT, I'm like, oh, I only paid like 0.4 ETH. And I'm like, that was just like $2,500. Like what the fuck just happened right there? Like I just, I said 0.4 ETH, like it was nothing, but it was like, I just paid like $2,500, you know, like it's a substantial amount of money for most people. So it's like where is that and what, like how that works? I couldn't tell you, to be honest, but I think ETH is ETH. So that's what I'm hoping that's the bet I'm making, is that ETH people are just going to transact in ETH and that's just how it's going to work. Right.
I mean, it's easier for me to digest the fact that I spent 3 ETH at a strip club in New York last week, as opposed to the fact I spent $13,000. So when you say it like that, I'm like, no, it's only 3 ETH, man. I'm not down that much. Just connect my MetaMask to the strip club and we're good. I'll send it over. But I think but I think the complexity of that, the valuation for Zed specifically, comes down to the fact that I think that Zed's had like they've valued their project on both, right? Like every drop that they do, like a Genesis drop, is valued on USD. They haven't like it hasn't been priced on Ethereum,
Yeah,
but all the mechanics of how the game work are on Ethereum, right? So you have like the racing is, I mean, although you can change it to be like a USD base to like know how much you're spending to do all these things, those are more like Ethereum based where the drops are USD based. So I think that's where like people are having a difficulty in correlating like what to value their stable on, you know, on one side or the other, because again, like, you know, we look at it that we bought concentrate for 10 ETH, not that we bought them for $40,000, right? Because today that 10 ETH, we could sell them for the exact same price of Ethereum and we would make money in a USD sense, but to us, we're valuing him on ETH, right? So we bought him for 10, now we can sell him for 30. That's our actual like ROI on the horse, right? So I'm hoping that it continues to run that route, because that USD correlation, I think, is going to get things, it's just going to make things muddy.
Yeah, it's too, yeah. If we're working in a currency, ETH should be ETH, and we'll just value these assets in ETH. I just think that the space is so young. And we have a bunch of young people in this space, so it's like, you know, we're learning about money. Like my generation, this is probably like cryptocurrency is like our only education of like how money truly works. So it's going to take some time for people to catch up.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's like an infant market. Like it's very new. So I don't know. I really think that it's just eventually going to be like ETH is how it's going to be transacted on the internet, and it's like that's just what it is. But who knows? You know, it could happen either way. I don't know.
Are you guys into any other utility or blockchain gaming projects?
No, I'm into a lot of NFTs and like crypto in general, but not anything like gaming wise.
I'm so spread out with shit. And Zed's such like it consumes so much time in a good way that it's like, you know, we've kind of concentrated our efforts on our NFT assets that we have, and we each kind of, or we all have like different, you know, specifics that we're invested in, but for the most part we share a lot of the same information and we're in a lot of the same projects together. So but yeah, on the gaming side of things, I mean, there's nothing that any of us are really fully vested into outside of Zed.
Like there's some like gaming NFTs that like they're like down the road potentially going to be games, but like besides that,
everything's
just
like roadmap based, but nobody's like executed really, right? In terms of like, this is what we plan on doing. So we have stuff like held in those assets, but anything that's currently live in terms of like NFTs and gaming, outside of Zed, we're not in.
Okay. Are you guys excited for like any NFTs mints coming soon?
Oh man,
you just did one, right? That was like you liked it like a lot.
Yesterday, I did a Cosmic Labs drop yesterday. The ducks. So I saw the Genesis ducks. I didn't get in on those, so I just bought the Cosmic ducks that dropped yesterday. But I mean, they minted at 0.05, and the floor I think has already gone 3x in 24 hours. So, you know, it's getting some traction there. And outside of that, it's just like playing in the spaces we're in right now. You know, I mean, we're big holders in like Gutter Cat Gang, and you know, a couple of us have apes. So, you know, it's just, it's fun, but it's hard, man. There's so much saturation now, especially in the avatar space, that I personally think that the NFT market is going to make a turnover to like one of one art, you know, and it's going to get really big into that space where those projects are going to hold a lot more value, because I mean, you know, there's just so much happening on these generative projects right now that it's really hard to keep up from a consumer standpoint, but, you know, B, it's difficult to set yourself apart from the creative standpoint, because there's like everything's pretty much been done, right? And so it's a copycat game right now, and it's just like execution's difficult.
Yeah, my buddy, he was trying to get me in on that Cosmic Labs, but I fucking hate gas, dude. Like all my projects I'm in are just like on Matic. Like Zed Run, love it. Matic, no gas, cool. But once you get out into gas world, it's like, fuck, dude.
Dude, it sucks, man. You're minting something for 0.05, and then next thing you know, it's 0.7. You're like, what the fuck just happened? You know, and it's like, I constantly have the gas, you know, Ether scan site up to see like where it is when I'm trying to mint projects because it's just like killing things, and it's hurting projects, right? Like the ability for projects to sell out right now. That's why you're seeing this huge influx in whitelisting now, because it at least guarantees people the opportunity to buy. You guarantee, you know, not as much on the gas war side by having a 72-hour window to, you know, pre-mint or whatnot. And that I think that's at least been a little bit of a, you know, circumvent the issue, but it's hard. So I've actually moved, not any money, but I've been spending a lot of time on like the hen and object spaces with Tezos. And I've been doing a lot of transacting there on some NFTs because there's a lot of good art over on that side of things. And so I've been kind of dabbling on that side of things. But yeah, the gas, I mean, that thing's, if it doesn't chill, man, it's going to really hurt the market.
Yeah, it
already has. I mean, I think that's a big part of what we're dealing with the bear market right now. Not just you have Ethereum high and then you have gas even higher. It's like they're almost like, you know, it makes it difficult for new people. You come in with $1,000, you're not going to be able to buy shit. No. You know, if you're starting today, it's like, you know, half an ETH will get you one or two things if you're lucky.
Yeah, and so especially if you go it's
difficult.
Mint, is because like the mint will be 0.04. I tried to go mint a CyberKong, and then it's like gas is 1 ETH. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, like no chance. Can't do it. Yeah. So yeah.
Where can people follow you guys at? How can people contact you guys?
So we're all on Twitter. In terms of the stable, it's Factory Horses is the Twitter domain. Mine personally is Young Gus. And then you've got Robbie Mole, DJ Sabotage, and Closet Nerd. So those are individuals, but if you just go to Factory Horses on Twitter, everything's tied in there, and you can also watch all of our fuckboy promos from a few months ago. So
sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. Do you guys got any questions for me or any last words?
No, I just want to thank you for, you know, taking the opportunity with us. So
yeah, man, I appreciate the time. This was really fun. I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, no problem, man. So thank you guys for coming on. I'll definitely catch you guys another time. Thank you, anybody that was watching. This was episode 6 of Zed Daily, and we're out.
Have a good one, Jared.